my name is King. What up, you guys? An amazing day. Of course, today we are here with the very first iteration of a Marvel Rivals tier list. Now, this game has been out for almost a week at this point, and for the past weekend, I have just spent grinding this game. It's a lot of fun. That being said, there is a lot of insanely broken characters in this game that I feel like a tier list just has to happen. Obviously, this is subject to change within the future as more characters are added, as new updates come out. By the end of this video, I'll probably change my mind. If you guys are new, subscribe today, join the Aztec Empire, as I do post content like this daily. Without further ado, y'all, let's get straight into the tier list. And we're going to start off with a very solid choice in A tier, Adam Warlock. Now, Adam Warlock is a really solid pick. I feel like majority of his abilities are based around healing, as he is a support, but he's able to do decent damage as well. He's able to resurrect himself with this passive at any given point, allowing to heavily contest objectives. He's also able to resurrect his allies with his ultimate, which they do have reduced health when they resurrect, but he can also obviously heal them, and then he gives them brief invincibility for a time. Absolutely insane pick. He is not the best support, but honestly, he's probably top 5 and maybe even top 3. Next up, our first S tier, and without saying, easily the most broken damage in this game, Iron Fist. For the very little skill that is required to play him, he does insane damage output. For some reason, he can 0 to 100 heal himself within the matter of like 2 seconds. He has a lot of damage output. He has a very similar to like Genji's Deflect, a shield that just negates all incoming damage, and he heals himself with every elimination he gets, buffing himself more and more. He also has a Fist Barrage that obviously does a lot of damage onto someone in the matter of a second. He is an insane pick. He has a lot of mobility. I've already seen a lot of people really nail his mobility, so he can escape a lot of scenarios. Like I said, he takes very little skill, and he has a huge payoff, instantly making him the most broken character probably this entire game, and without a doubt, one of the best damages by far. Next up, I think for a solid top of B tier, low A tier is Iron Man. Now, he is really good. Obviously, his mobility is his biggest strong suit. He has a good ultimate that allows him to nuke a given area, and even if it just passes by and grazes an enemy, it'll almost guarantee kill him unless they're a tank, maybe. It's a really good ult. It is pretty slow, so at the end of the day, it's pretty easy to dodge, right? But that's obviously for balancing. His mobility is really good. He's able to harass a lot being in the air. He is a little more difficult to catch. And since a lot of this cast is melee, he is pretty hard to catch, right? So majority of the time, he's not going to die a lot. He doesn't require a lot of healing, and he's able to deal a decent amount of damage, making him maybe top of B tier, low A tier. Next up, one of the best supports in the game, probably the second best overall, is Jeff the Landshark. He is a really good pick, very solid. For some reason, he's able to almost like simultaneously deal a lot of damage and heal a lot of health. Obviously, it goes without saying, his ultimate can swallow all 6 enemies on the opponent's team and throw them off of the map. Majority of the time, you will see a Jeff get all 6 enemies and then jump off the map, sacrificing himself to get the entire team off the map. But he doesn't even need to do that. There's been a lot of instances where I get caught with like 5 other of my teammates and I just die and he lives. The only way to really escape that is if you're a high mobility character that can fly or dash in an instant. And even then, it's not always guaranteed because it is very instantaneous where he just kills you. Very game-breaking ult. It is absolutely insane. One of the very few people in this game who can just jump onto the objective, click one button, and instantly destroy the enemy team. He does a lot of heals. He can do a lot of damage. For some reason, he can swim on walls, making him very difficult to catch. And obviously, when he's completely submerged into the ground or into a wall, it's very hard to catch him. His hitbox is significantly reduced. Super broken, super insane. It's probably the second best, debatably the best support in the game. Next up is Loki, and I'm probably going to put him in the middle, like B tier. He is a really good support. At the end of the day, I just feel like a lot of people haven't mastered him yet. His clones are easily one of the best harassing mechanics in the game, but I just feel like since a lot of people haven't mastered how to use his clones yet, we haven't seen a lot of really crazy stuff from him. I think as time goes on by this game, while it ages naturally, I think majority of people, a lot of Loki mains will rise up and they will probably get to like A tier or maybe even bottom of S tier. But as of right now, as the game is still very fresh, it's still in its baby stages, I would say Loki is probably B tier. Next up, the best support in the game is Luna Snow, without a doubt. She's insane. She can freeze people. She can do a lot of heals. Majority of the time, you will see a Luna Snow into the MVP slot. Any Luna Snow is probably super cracked. They are always carrying their teams. They're absolutely insane. Her ultimate obviously is a huge area of effect. It's a huge circle around her that boosts her teammates, giving them the advantage every single time. It is an absolutely insane kit for her to have, and she executes it perfectly. She deals a lot of damage. With headshots, you can kill in 2 to 3 shots minimum. Very good support. Obviously the best, the most broken. I'm not sure if even she necessarily needs to be nerfed. I just think a lot of her abilities are just insane. Next up, I would say in low B tier, and this sucks to say because I am a Magic main. Magic. She has her normal form, and then she has her Dark Child form. It is really good. She does a lot of damage output. Her combos are insane. She does have a ranged ability, which is really good and super underrated. And her all-in is really good. That's assuming that you land every single one of her abilities. She also heals the more she does damage, which is really good. And I've seen a couple other Magic mains that can really nail down her playstyle. It just takes a lot of skill, and I think when it compares to a lot of people like Iron Fist, it doesn't take half the skill to play Iron Fist, for example, and he's way better, right? So I think it does take a lot of getting used to. It is something to master and hone, but she is a really good character. I don't think by any means she's like bad. Next up, a super underrated pick, I would say our boy Magneto. Magneto is one of the most underrated tanks by far. He's able to absorb a lot of incoming projectiles and turn it into damage or buffs or shields. He can also push back his opponents, which is really good for contesting point, right? Obviously, his ultimate also absorbs all incoming projectiles and turns it into a huge damage nuke. It is really good. It's kind of hard to land, and it's not the biggest area, so if you don't aim it correctly, it's useless, right? It's just a wasted slot. But if you know how to play him, he is nearly unkillable. I've had a lot of games myself. I think at the most, I get like 3 deaths every time I play Magneto. He is nearly unkillable. And if you have Wanda on your team, he's able to imbue his primary fire, and it makes it that much better, and it does so much damage, and it goes so far, and it pierces through opponents. It's just a great damage output opportunity. And even without Wanda, honestly, I think he does enough damage to stand by himself, but obviously he's a tank for a reason. His main thing is damage negation. His shields are big enough to where it covers the entire entry point into an objective, especially if it's like a control map. So he's a really good option for tanks. Probably not the best tank, but one of the best. Next up, we have Mantis. I think Mantis is really solid. I think I'm going to put her like right here. She's a good support. She's not the best, but she does have a lot of good healing. She has a stun, which could be really annoying, and her ultimate's very similar to Luna Snow's, where it's just a big area of effect. And she can actually overheal, providing her teammates with a shield. She does a lot of good healing. She's not the best, like I said, but I think she is one of the best. Next up, another underrated pick. I would say Moon Knight is probably A tier. Now, Moon Knight is a really underrated pick. He does a lot of damage. One of the most insane abilities in his kit is the Ankh. He throws it down, and if he throws his primary fire at it, it is guaranteed to hit an opponent as long as it bounces off the Ankh. It is insane. He can obviously, reposition himself with his grappling hook and then glide down. He is a great, solid pick. He's not the best, most broken. He is decently balanced for the most part, I would say. His ultimate is really good. Obviously, it's a great way to push people off of objective to where they're forced to either contest and probably die or jump off of it and probably lose the objective, right? So at the end of the day, he's a really good control person. He's also able to get a lot of picks off that matter. He's not the best in team fights, but when it comes to 1v1s, he does a really good job. And when it comes to harassing, his Ankh definitely makes him one of the best, heavy aggro pushers when it comes to objective. Next up, unfortunately, our first C tier is going to be Namor. Now, Namor is good. He has a lot of potential. His damage is pretty decent. He can summon little octopus minions, which can be good too. But I just feel like nothing in his kit really justifies his gameplay. He could be a lot better. He's not necessarily like a bad character, I would say, for the most part. But at the end of the day, it could be a lot better. And compared to a lot of these characters, he's not the best. And he's underperforming majority of the people that will be on this list. Next up, we have Black Panther. I think bottom of S tier, maybe even top of A tier. Really good choice. His combo, his all-in combo is just insane. It is almost guaranteed to kill. Super lethal. He's very quick. He's very mobile. He has a javelin that is an area of effect explosion that if it lands somewhat close to an opponent, it's going to knock them back and deal them damage. He's also able to, with his ultimate, right, he can pop it, he can reposition, he can jump on another person, catch them off guard, and burst them to death. He is an insane pick, one of the best damages by far. Very underrated in a lot of people's opinions, but when you get to it, right, when you ask people who is one of the best, without a doubt, the people who use Black Panther recognize that he is one of the best in the game. Next up, I would say top of A tier, and honestly, also very underrated. Probably the most underrated character in this game is Penny Parker. Very solid tank. I think a lot of people gravitate towards the better tanks, the S tier tanks, but when it comes to harassing, when it comes to area control, 1000%, that goes to Penny Parker. She's also mobile. She's able to web swing. She's also able to run up walls, which makes her really good for repositioning. She's able to web people down. She can also pull them in, which I didn't even know about. And her ultimate allows her to barrage people and simultaneously deal damage by knocking them back and putting down mines to area control. Really good. It's super powerful. She has a beacon that also heals people. So for that being a tank, it's just really important that she's able to help her team out in a huge team fight. And she executes that perfectly. A lot of her abilities are more tactical as opposed to like damage output. So she's not the best damage output tank, but she does her job and she does it really well. Next up, I would say Psylocke is probably in A tier. I think she's pretty hard to master. Funny enough, I think her and Iron Fist are both equal in terms of like opportunity, but it just comes to the fact that she takes a lot more skill to play than he does. And with that being said, she's really good. She could be really good. She's not for everyone. She's definitely not everyone's playstyle, but her ultimate is really good. It's a big area of effect where she deals a lot of damage and hones in on people instantly, killing them if they stay in it for like 2 seconds. Does a lot of damage. She's really good, very mobile, but at the end of the day, she does take a lot of skill, and I think that skill ceiling kind of pushes her down a little bit in the tiers, but at the end of the day, she's definitely mid A tier. Next up, Rocket Raccoon, I think is probably bottom of B tier. Now, he is a pretty decent support. One of, if not the only character in the game to have 2 team-up options where he can ride on Groot's shoulders, but then he can also provide Winter Soldier and Punisher with infinite ammo with their power-up alone. Not even one of their abilities, just a power-up. Rocket Raccoon is insane. He also has a good ultimate. It's decent. It's not the best at all. It deals no damage. It's one of the only utility-based ultimates in the game where it's just a damage buff. So he is super reliant on his team. He also doesn't have a lot of damage in general. So if he gets caught off guard, he's almost guaranteed to lose that 1v1 all the time. But given his team, if it's pretty decent, if he's able to do a good team up with either Groot or Winter Soldier or Punisher, any one of those 3 options, and he's almost guaranteed to perfectly synergize with them. Next up, we have Scarlet Witch, I think in maybe high to mid B tier. Now, she's really good, obviously. I think she's basically like the what-if character, funny enough, because a lot of her kit can be really good. It just depends on if the enemy team is oblivious or not. If you're playing against a really good team, Scarlet Witch is almost impossible to run. She has a phase similar to Moira from Overwatch where she can put herself into like an invincible bubble and move herself around, but it's very easy to track and it's pretty slow. So if you get caught off guard and you try to run away with it, if you can't make it back to your team, you're almost dead, right? She has a sucking primary fire, which is pretty good. At the end of the day, it doesn't do a lot of damage, and obviously it takes a set amount of time to kill someone. So a lot of it relies on you not being the main objective, primary focus of a team fight. Her ultimate, obviously, is guaranteed to 6-kill an enemy team if they're in the area, as long as it's not interrupted. The only caveat is it takes like 5 minutes to wind up. It's super loud. It's super noticeable. She's flying in the air. It's really easy to see. It's super bright red. Any one of the stuns in the game can interrupt her ult and end it immediately. Super easy to counter. Very few times is she able to pop off. But if she's able to, the huge what if is if the entire team is able to tank shots for her while she's doing her thing on the sidelines, then she can outperform. But that relies heavily on the team. She's not really able to stand alone, and for that reason I put her in B tier. Funny enough, for being probably the most recognizable character in this game, I would say Spider-Man's probably also mid B tier. Now, Spider-Man's a pretty good choice. He's very mobile. I think it takes a lot of getting used to web swing and, accurately, most efficiently get used to his mobility. His damage is pretty decent. His combo potential is really good. He's able to solo people out, target them, put them up in the air, and combo them, and then get away and get back to his team. His ultimate's also pretty good. It doesn't deal a lot of damage. It is a little bit more utility focused, although it does deal damage. But if you know what you're doing, Spider-Man can be very lethal. Next up, I would say low A tier is going to be Squirrel Girl. I love Squirrel Girl. She's a lot of fun. She's the Junkrat of the game. She's very mobile. She can get into positions. She can get very snipe-like abilities off, right? Her primary fire is really good. Big area of effect. If you land it on their head, it's almost guaranteed to kill them. If not, get them like 20% health. Super good. She has a big acorn that can stun people. And then, of course, her ultimate is also utility-based. It's not the best ult, and I think that if it was buffed, then she probably could be S tier. It's just her ultimate's not very consistent, and depending on the map that you're on, there's no guarantee that it's going to hit the team more than once. So you really got to watch out what you're doing. It's very unpredictable. It's not super good when it comes to other ultimates in the game, but her kit alone makes her very viable in the game. Next up, low A tier as well, I would say Star-Lord. Star-Lord's pretty good. He's the Tracer. He's also very mobile, similar to Iron Man, where he can outmaneuver a team. He can move around. His ultimate's really good, gives him super quick shots, and he reloads super fast, which allows him to fly in the air and harass people. Pretty hard to catch. I would say he's only second to Iron Man in that regard, but he is pretty fast. Sometimes he is even faster than Iron Man, so he's a really good opportunity to harass people on objective, make everyone focus on you, move them away from objective maybe, get some good picks off, deal a lot of damage, and then get out of there. Next up, a C tier support, I would say, is Storm. She's really good. She's able to power up herself as well as her teammates. If she powers up herself, she can move around a lot faster, and her ultimate is also really easy to combo into. It's just her ultimate is very utility based. I don't think there's been many times, if at all, I've ever seen, a Storm kill someone with their ultimate. You know, obviously I call her a support. She's actually a damage. I just really feel like she should have been a support. She's not really able to do a lot of damage. She's able to help out her team, but not in a lot of ways. And especially compared to the other damages in this game, she's like a decent support, you know? Next up, very undershadowed by other people, but without a doubt, one of the best damages in the game, instantly S tier, is Punisher. Honestly, I think this might take a lot of people by surprise just because you don't see a lot of Punishers. And if you do, for some reason, their aim isn't the best. I played a game like 2 days ago. I think I went... His aim, if you have decent aim, you're golden. His turret is insane. It has infinite ammo. It deals a bunch of damage. It eats through any character. Even Captain America with his shield up will die in about 2-3 seconds with Punisher's turret. His ultimate's really good. He gets slowed down, which is kind of like a give and take. But he deals a lot of damage to where it doesn't even matter. He can reposition himself a lot. He has 2 abilities that allow him to reposition himself. He has his zip line, and then he also has his smoke bomb that blinds people and then shoots him backwards, allowing him to reposition himself easily. He can also chase down a lot of people in that regard. He can sprint and shoot very accurately. Very, very good pick. He is definitely one of the best top 3 damages in the game. Next up, Thor. Honestly, this is kind of a weird placement. I feel like Thor is probably like a B tier tank. He can be really good, but I feel like he's not a solo tank. You can't pick Thor and instantly win. Majority of the time, he will be a melee character. He has 2 options for ranged abilities, but since he's on a resource meter, it makes it that much harder to play. He can shield himself, he can fly away. One use that I've seen some Thor mains use is they'll use their like spinning throw to where they charge at someone with their hammer first and then combo them. And in that regard, it can be really good. If you pair him with like a Captain America, for example, they can really get on people and harass them. But alone, he can't do a lot. His ultimate can be really good. If it misses, it's just a waste. And his big what if is really just closing the distance. Next up is Black Widow. I think Black Widow is... it's really weird. Depending on the player, Black Widow's either low B tier or low A tier. I'm going to put her low B tier for now. Maybe like right here. She's able to one-shot people from a very far distance. Her ultimate's pretty good for area control as well. But if you jump on her and they can't get that initial snipe off, they're basically just dead. She also has melee opportunities. I don't really see anyone using her melee. I think just because she can one-shot people, a lot of people automatically assume that she is a really good character. There's just way better damages in this game. A pretty decent amount of better damages. So she's not the best opportunity. If you want to like really go in on a team, you're not going to choose Black Widow. Next up, the best tank in the game by far is Venom. He is so unkillable, it's insane. One of his abilities gives him a shield depending on how much remaining health he has. And if you have really small health and you pop it, it's basically a second health bar. He's insane. For some reason, his melee damage, if you would even call it that, is super crazy. His ultimate is really good at dealing damage and getting area control. Pair it with Jeff, it's just an unstoppable force. You pop Venom and then you pop Jeff. They're already low. You spit them out, put them into the back line, and then destroy them. He's really good. He's mobile. He can swing around for some reason, even though he's already unkillable. Without a doubt, the best tank in the game. Next up, the best, biggest snowballing character in the game by far is going to be Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is really good. He's probably the second best damage behind Iron Fist only. If you're good with his aim, then he's probably above Iron Fist, right? It just depends on who's playing him. But majority of the time, if you can aim kind of decently, you're going to get a lot of kills. And his ultimate gets a reset upon every kill, and it is almost a guaranteed kill. So let's say you get 2 to 3 shots off of someone, you pop ult on them, you kill them, then you reset your ult, kill another person, reset the ult again, kill and kill and kill until the entire enemy team is wiped out. Now, obviously, he does take some aim as opposed to Iron Fist where it just takes like literally no skill to play. So in that regard, he takes more skill. So he's kind of like lower. But I think definitely within the coming days and even weeks, he will probably be a lot more dominant in the meta. Next up, another S tier support, I will say, is Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger is really good. I think they're probably the second best supports in the game, maybe interchangeable with Jeff. They're really good. If you know how to play them, their opportunity is insane. Cloak and Dagger obviously being two different people that you can switch off of. Every game that I played with Cloak and Dagger, I have about 93% accuracy with them. Cloak has aimbot built into every single one of her primary fires. She's able to heal people through walls. She's able to pop down a little shield, a little force field area of effect that instantly heals people and does a lot of healing over time. And then if you switch to Cloak, Cloak can make his team invincible and invisible for a set time. He can blind people, and he can deal a lot of damage, and it sucks. So it deals a lot of damage, and you don't even really have to aim with him. Very good if you know what you're doing with them. I've seen a couple people who are absolutely insane and could honestly probably be like one of these two slots, right? I'll just put him right here just because. But they are an excellent pair. They are so good, and they are one of the best supports in the game. Next up is Wolverine. I would say Wolverine's probably A tier. He's very similar to Black Panther in a lot of regards. He can jump on someone and, execute them really well. He also goes into his berserker state, which is really good for him. And his ultimate is able to single someone out, throw them up in the air, and throw them down to the ground, almost instantly killing them. You can follow that up with a huge barrage. He has a lot of damage output. I think he's interchangeable with Black Panther. Next up is Captain America. I think Captain America is probably bottom of S tier. He's really good. Damage negation is his biggest strong suit. He's also able to harass people. I don't think he's a good execute tank, but he's really good at damage negation, which is really what you look for a tank to do. He can protect his team. When he does his Avengers Assemble ultimate, he's able to provide a lot of support to his team, and he speeds them up. He's able to go in and get super aggro. And like I said, paired with the Thor, they're a really good duo. Super good tanks to bounce off of each other. Next up, Doctor Strange. I think Doctor Strange is probably low B tier. He's a decent tank. I was honestly pretty surprised when I saw them make Strange a tank. For some reason, I've seen a lot of Doctor Stranges, but for some reason, he's just not super good. His ultimate allows him to keep his team alive for a decent amount of time. But I just feel like he doesn't have enough. He just doesn't have enough. He's got a really good shield though. It is pretty easy to pop. It's easy to get behind and get around. He's pretty slow in that regard. He can fly around, which makes him a little bit better, but there's just better tanks in this game. Next up is Hawkeye. Honestly, I'm not really sure where. I think I'm going to put him next to Black Widow. Well, I think he does have a really good kit. I just feel like a lot of people don't use him enough for it to be good. However, he has a lot of area denial. He has his katana slash that pushes people back instantly, and it's pretty far too. So it is a really good thing. He's able to get enemy vision. He's also able to do a 3-charge shot. He's basically Hanzo. He's almost like a 1-to-1 copy of Hanzo. For those who don't know, in case you've never seen his ultimate, it's basically a voodoo doll. It spawns an after image of a moving opponent, And if he shoots it, it'll deal damage to its corresponding character. It's pretty good. I haven't seen a lot of people use him, so he could very well be like bottom of B tier, but he's pretty decent. Next up, it sucks to say, I think Groot is probably top of C tier. He's pretty good. He's decent. He has a lot of good area control. I feel like he takes a lot of getting used to, and even then, his biggest strong suit is his walls that either heal his allies or deal damage to the opponents. It can also deny a lot of area, but at the end of the day, it could just be shot down. It could be maneuvered around. A lot of the time, if you close in on Groot, he doesn't have a lot of options. He does have his seed bomb, which is pretty decent. His ultimate's pretty good too. It does, hold a lot of people in place, so he could be bottom of B tier. But I just think compared to everyone else on this roster, he is probably C tier. Next up is Hela. I think she's honestly probably like mid A tier. She's a really good character, I feel like. She has a good stun that gravitates people towards a center area and holds them in place for a second. She's able to deal a lot of damage with her daggers. It does take a lot of aiming, but she also has mobility in her Hawk form, and her ultimate is the main reason I'm putting her in A. Every time a Hela has popped an ult, I die. I've always died. I don't know if I just have bad luck, but it's guaranteed to kill me. She goes into first-person mode, she launches herself up in the air, and she shoots around. Obviously, it can be countered. You could just shoot her down. But most times, if you're fighting for an objective and there's a big team fight knocking off, a Hela is just going to go into the back line and do it anyways. And majority of the time, you're not going to see it. So it's really good of like a flanking character. She does take a lot of aim, and there's not always like the biggest payoff for it. But her ultimate can make her super good. And honestly, I think I'm going to put her right here. Last but not least, unfortunately, Hulk. It's probably the worst character in this game. I'm going to be real. It sucks to say I was like the biggest Hulk fan growing up. Hulk's probably the lamest and worst character in this game. He's super underwhelming. He doesn't have a lot of damage. He can't really close in on people. He doesn't even have a lot of health, which is crazy to say. In his Berserk form, if he gets his ult off, then he can guarantee a kill. But at the end of the day, I've never seen a Hulk pop it. I've never seen him successfully kill someone. And if he gets popped into his Bruce Banner form, it's wraps. There's literally nothing he could do. He is basically like the stand-in diva, right? He can quote-unquote demech, where he de-transforms into Bruce Banner, where she could run around and then re-transform. And he has a third transformation where he can go into the Berserk Hulk form, but it's just really not worth it, right? If you want to play tank, if you want to have fun in this game and you want to do good, pick literally any other tank in this game and you will do better. Honestly, I would say I'm pretty satisfied with this ranking. I think for the most part, S is like the meta. This is like the game-breaking characters. A is like the pretty good, but they have like one ability that's kind of like eh. B is very situational. Yeah, it's the cool middle ground, right? Where like you could have a really good time with them, but it just depends on a lot of things. And C, I just feel like either needs reworks already or just straight up needs a lot of buffs, right? They're not the best characters. I feel like a lot of them really struggle with mobility, except Storm. And even then, it's not like the best. And yeah, that is it for my Marvel Rivals first on launch tier list. Let me know how you guys feel about this. What would you change around? Any questions, comments, concerns, opinions, please let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is King Quad. Hope you guys have an amazing day. Of course, if you guys are new, subscribe today as I do post content like this daily. Have a great day. Stay safe. Take care. Peace. Adios. And of course, until next time.